G'day, and thank you for the kind welcome. First of all, I'm just going to ask you to be kind to me today. Looking around the room, I can see there's a fair bit of boating experience in here already, so I'll do the best I can with what I've got. Just a word of warning, going to go into some coronial matters later on. It's nothing that hasn't been printed in the paper, and it's just some photographs of 3 people that passed away at Table Cape a few years ago in a vessel accident. It's lifted straight from the newspaper, and there's also some mention of a search with 1 deceased and 1 survivor for a family called the Timpsons, which were down in Frederick Henry Bay. That was about 3 or 4 years ago as well. But there's no photographs of them. It's just that I'll touch briefly on that. So just have that in your mind. But thanks for having me here today. I'll try and keep it to 35 minutes or so, and then we can have some questions at the end, and we'll take it from there. Callum Herbert from the Marine and Rescue Division of Tasmania Police. I've been a police officer since 1998. Joined search and rescue, land search and rescue, about 2001, and got into search and rescue mission controlling about 2004. So that means we kind of run land and air searches from that point. That's kind of in a part-time role. I joined the Marine Division at Stanley in 2009 in a full-time role. And what a fantastic place that is to work, in a fantastic corner of Tasmania. And I moved to Hobart in 2011 to the Marine and Rescue Division as a full-time Marine and Rescue officer from there. 2019, I moved officers about 3 metres into the Search and Rescue office, where I work now in a team of 3 with myself, my sergeant and another constable in there. So we run land SAR and coordinate the Marine and Rescue response for the south of the state, and my role and my colleagues is training people throughout the state in land search and rescue. I'm also fortunate enough to instruct, I'll be the course director of the National Search and Rescue course, so a little bit of a background in marine and rescue, but we'll keep on going. So today I'm going to just talk to you about what we can do, where we do it, what we've got to do it with, and how kind of a search is run, some rescue considerations and investigations, a little bit of hints and tips for safe boating, and then we'll get into some questions after that. If you've got a burning question you need to ask, feel free to ask me. If you can't hold it in, feel free. Otherwise, we'll see how we go. Okay, this is what we do in the Marine and Rescue Services. So search management coordination. As I said, if anything happens on the water or on land, but primarily on the water, and that can be from a kayak seen floating down the Derwent River with no one on it, through to the Spirit of Tasmania sinks in the middle of Bass Strait. We will be involved in the coordination of the search for that. My office does the marine enforcement. That's Commonwealth fisheries, past 3 miles, state fishery. We also enforce maritime law, and we work hand in hand with Marine and Safety Tasmania. So, I could be potentially writing you a ticket for having too many hooks on your shark line, or one for not carrying a PFD or something like that, or for not carrying your Commonwealth shark fishery licence with you on your boat. We do marine rescue, and we support other agencies, including I've got a close relationship with Ambulance Tasmania, do a lot of medivacs through Bruny Island on police vessel Dauntless. We do work with Tas Fire now and then. We work pretty close with the volunteer marine rescue units throughout the state and surf lifesaving, and we spend some time with Parks and Wildlife in support of them. There we go. We run the dive squad out of the Marine and Rescue Division, which incidentally is out at Glenorchy. We've got on the books 20 divers operate out of Tasmania, down to 30 metres they can dive. That's on a scuba or a twin tank system. and we also do a surface supply. We can do penetration dives. Anything over 30 metres, we will put out to other jurisdictions or the military to do. We do land search and rescue, vertical rescue and cave rescue. We're fairly well regarded throughout the country for our land SAR abilities, because Tassie's so small and the weather down here fluctuates quite a bit. We get a lot of jobs, obviously. We respond to protesters, whether it be political, forestry or salmon. It's our role to manage that within the law. We do swiftwater rescue, and we have the helicopter down at Cambridge. So that's just a quick overview of kind of what our office does. This is where we work around the state. So we've got vessels. These are just the police vessels we've got. So we've got a catamaran up at Flinders, one at King Island, catamaran at St Helens. I've just got a brand new station for it there. We've got some smaller, they call it an aqua truck. So it basically looks like a fish farm with an engine on the back of it. But that's up at Bicheno. Sorell's got its own boat. We've got several vessels out of the Marine Rescue Division down here, and a smaller boat out of Huonville, another catamaran at Strawn. So we've pretty much got the state covered with small vessels. And I'll go through kind of what some of them are in a minute, but here's, I don't know if you can see the picture, that's one of our catamarans there. And it's a bloke hiding in the bush trying to catch someone who's poaching. You can just see him there. So these are some of the boats we've got around the state. This is one of our larger vessels. I'll go through. We've got two boats quite similar, the Van Diemen and the Cape Wickham. I'll go through the specs of the Van Diemen in a minute. It's got a picture of it, so I won't concentrate on that too much. This is our catamaran class vessel. It's about 7 metres long, trailerable boat. We've got them all around the state. I think this one's in Strawn Harbour. It's assisting that a whale stranding in Strawn Harbour, so just on the water there. I've got some rigid inflatable vessels. The officer here obviously sees a couple of pots a day out. This is our Sentinel class. It's like the plastic boat basically. It's about 25 years old now. The company's still going, and they're making vessels for the military now, so quite a sturdy vessel. It's meant to be police officer proof, and still haven't no one's put a hole in one yet, so it's doing all right. Another large patrol vessel there, and this is one of our smaller vessels, the inflatable one. That's at Pedra Branca Rock there, so we get around a little bit. We're helping Parks and Wildlife kind of to get onto some of the islands and kind of rocks around the south of the state to monitor, the bird life and the like. So pretty mixed kind of job. Here we go. It's our large patrol vessels. So the Cape Wickham and the Van Diemen. This being the Van Diemen here, we got that in 2025. It's a fairly new vessel. And the Cape Wickham, I think it's 10 years old now, so maybe 2015. These are out to 200 miles, surveyed. I'll go through some specs in a second, but pretty much the way they work is one of the boats is up at Beauty Point and the other boat's down here at Salamanca, and every 6 months we swap them over. They swap over around Christmas time, maybe around about the City to Hobart kind of time, they'll swap over. So we've got capacity to pretty much get anywhere in the state within a few hours or within a day. We get a crew together, we can fly them up to Beauty Point if needed, get in the boat, turn the key, and respond to something in the Bass Strait pretty quickly. Here it is. This is the Van Diemen. This is some of the specs of it. Call signs Yankee 2, built in 2024. So it's a Western Australian boat out of Geraldton. Our previous Van Diemen was 25 years old when we gifted that to I think the Solomon Islands. And this is a replacement of that, quite similar. It's 23.995 metres long. And for those that know boats would know why it's that length. because that's the difference between a Master 5 ticket and a Master 4 ticket. So it's built to be driven by a Master 5. It's drafted 1.9 metres, 85 tonnes, so it's a big heavy boat. It's a fair bit beamier than our previous vessel. And yeah, it's just a fantastic boat to go on. Holds 17 tonnes of fuel, can be out for 10 days, out to 200 nautical miles. So very, very capable vessel. And the Cape Wickham's very similar to it. This is, you know, it's 10 years older, it's got some newer kind of stuff on it. It is a rescue platform. It's a floating police station. So we can do, you know, a forward command post if need be, if we have something significant, fires and the like, so we can move that down there. And it's also, you know, it can be my home for up to 6 or 7 days. So it's, you know, it's got cabins for everyone, kitchen, a couple of toilets and bathrooms. It's got a tender off the back of it, which is almost a 6 metre rigid inflatable. Twin motor tender comes off the back. That opens through the doors at the rear of it. So that's the Van Diemen. Next boat, sorry about the writing there, it's Police Vessel Vigilant. Just got a show of hands if anyone recognises that boat. Yep. It's a bit of a museum piece now, built by Ray Kemp, I think in 1971. It's still operational at the moment. It goes 10 knots or so, but we tow quite a capable tender with it. So that boat's basically supports the tender, and it can travel, you know, anywhere around the state. So it regularly patrols between Port Davey and Bicheno, the Vigilant. But yeah, I won't go into too much detail about it, but certainly a magnificent vessel, and it's a credit to Tas Police for keeping it for as long as they have. You know, it was there when the Tasman Bridge collapsed, and still here now. So I'll talk about search and rescue response and what we do in the case of a search and rescue. Ooh, there we go. So typically, you know, a mission controller like myself would receive notification. That can come from AMSAR, the Australian Maritime Safety Authority. So if someone sets off an EPIRB, or if an EPIRB comes at sea, right, what's that? That'll go to AMSAR, and they will ring someone like myself and say, we've had this EPIRB go off, it's registered to, you know, vessel such and such, and we'll manage it from there. We get information, you know, direct phone calls to our radio room, the ambulance radio room, or via Tas Maritime Radio. They can collect things on Channel 16. They'll typically put it through our radio room, but certainly where their information from. And we need to make an urgency assessment from that. And the very complicated form up the top there pretty much is the form that we fill out to kind of assess how urgent the situation is. Sometimes it's pretty obvious. If someone rings up and says, you know, I'm sinking, come and help me, you're not going to bother filling this out just then. It'll go straight to the most urgent thing. But, you know, if someone says, oh, I've broken down, or no, I've run out of fuel, I'm in a yacht, I'm here, you know, there's wind forecast, are we going to, you know, get the helicopter out and go and rescue them straight away? Maybe not. We'll have a bit more of a conversation with them about what they can do to help themselves. Or even see if there's wind coming. They might be quite capable of sailing in under their own steam. So different levels of urgency. We do have some kind of rules in there. You know, if people are on their own or if there's bad weather coming, we pretty much treat most things as urgent. So that's the way we do it. That little bloke down at the bottom left here is a growing trend for us. One of the most common jobs we kind of get when it gets windy is people will see people on, I think it's a foil board, kite surfers. You get people doing downwind kind of paddle boarding, people enjoying the kind of wind, having a lovely time, but someone on the shore might be watching them through their binoculars and see them tip into the water, and then they'll contact us immediately. So we spend a fair bit of time kind of chasing around people like this who are having a lovely time and are doing everything right, and within their own little community, they have ways of tracking each other and know where they are. So often it turns out they're okay, but also there are circumstances where people are actually in trouble and need our help. So it's a bit of a mixed bag there. But we certainly engage with the kite surfing community and the downwind paddling community and the like to figure out where they're at and what they're doing. Moving on. So we've got the job. Something's going on. There's a boat sinking kind of in the middle of the Derwent River. We've got to deploy and coordinate our resources. As I mentioned at the start, we've got some pretty close kind of contacts with Surf Lifesaving Tasmania. We can contact them using the 13 Surf phone number. VMR, the Volunteer Marine Rescue, we've got some good contacts with them. Every couple of years we have a marine search and rescue exercise, and we're due to have one later this year. We have ability to track and contact commercial vessels, get a lot of help from fishing boats, fish farms. Love them or hate them, are an amazing resource for us. They are on the water, most of the time, and are really willing to help if something goes wrong. So they're kind of a first port of call. Tourist boats, Rob Pennicott, for example, is a great help for us. He's often on the water. He's got capable vessels and capable skippers. And we can also kind of grab some, cruise ship if you really needed to for a search. Example, if someone were to go overboard on the Spirit or down the east coast, we can kind of get cruise ships and the like to come and assist. We have drone capability out of our office and also throughout Tas Police. Drones are a upcoming technology for us. They're equipped with forward-looking infrared, so we can see people in the water. All these things sound amazing, but not one particular resource will solve all your problems at once. I'm going to put a drone onto this, it's going to fix it. Doesn't always work, so we like to layer it. So we'll call the police out, we'll call our volunteer marine rescue and the like out, we'll put drones over it, helicopters, people on the shore, and not forgetting also that we have uniform officers as well that can make inquiries of friends and family who might have more information. Obviously we put aircraft over it. Talk about the rescue helicopter, just changed contract with them, so we've got a couple of new aircraft in the air which have an increased capability with forward-looking infrared and vehicle and vessel tracking and the like. We use civilian aircraft, and what a lot of people don't know is AMSA, the Maritime Safety Authority, actually have 4 jet aircraft stationed around Australia, which travel at the speed of sound, which can be here pretty quick. So we often get the Challenger aircraft to come and provide overwatch and communications when we get jobs out at sea, or even in a remote location where communications is a bit difficult. And obviously civilian vessels. So get a few people, up and down the Derwent in their yachts or in their dinghies. They often come to our assistance as well. So these are the kind of resources that we coordinate in search and rescue. If we don't find someone straight away, we have to go and look for them. So we go through our search patterns. I won't go into too much detail about how they work. You can kind of imagine it. So track line search. If someone were to fall, is it me? No. If someone were to fall off a boat and you kind of know where they're going, you do a track line search. So get in your vessel, straight up and down the track of where they were, looking either side of it. And then if you don't find them in that sweep, turn around, come down the other side, and then you keep expanding the track line. And a parallel track line search is your classic kind of, all right, we'll get 6 or 7 boats together and then we'll go do the same thing. So we'll all line up and we'll have a track spacing in between us. Now that track spacing is a pretty important number, depending on what you're looking for. If you're looking for a vessel in the water or a life raft, you could probably be 2 miles apart. and you're probably going to pick up that life raft just by looking at it with your eyes. Whereas if you're looking for a person in the water, life jacket, you're going to want to be pretty close. So you drag your track spacing in to 0.25 of the nautical miles, kind of the maximum it's going to be. So about 350, 400 metres. Correct me if I'm wrong. And that's the kind of the maximum distance you want to be away looking for a person in the water. And that's mostly what we're looking for, is people in the water. So you've got your track line, your parallel, creeping line search. So this one here, we put a boat up the middle of a search area, and the aircraft will crawl up and down the search area looking for the person in the water with their track spacing there. And the vessel in the middle there is a rescue platform, because obviously along with search, there's also got to be the rescue element of it as well. Having that in mind. Expanding square, this is kind of your mayday, 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 I'm here. We'll go straight to that spot and start putting an expanding square search on it. And the distance here, this is, little area here is like one track spacing, so, okay, 400 metres, then two track spacings. So 800 metres, 800 metres. Three track spacings, 1200 metres, 1200 metres. Fortunately, our vessels are equipped with, and a lot of modern ones are, with plotters where you can just drop that search pattern right on top of your plotter in your boat, and away you go. So that's a very effective way of searching. And last but not least on this one, I'll go back to a barrier search in a second. A sector search. This is normally completed by an aircraft, with the centre being kind of the last known position or splash point, and the aircraft will fly over that in a sector kind of search, and that's quite an efficient way of searching an area via aircraft if you've got a fair idea of where they are. I've got a couple of other little searches that we do. Contour search, sounds complicated, but it's not. It's basically a shoreline search. So we'll often get the Surf Lifesaving, for example, have their small inflatable vessels which can get in close. They'll perform a contour search for us around the shoreline. And a barrier search, an area where you'd use something called a barrier search might be if someone were to enter the water near the Tasman Bridge, for example, or you're looking for someone near the Tasman Bridge and it's an outgoing tide. You wouldn't start, or you'd have some capacity near the bridge, but you could start 2 miles down from the bridge and then search that area, because whatever's in the water will be coming towards you, so you're containing it within the barrier. So that is a search, for want of a better word. Hopefully you're all educated on how we search. I'll show you a little bit of our tech, just bearing in mind our time. You might be able to see this too well, but we also call for, we use a program in Tasmania called SARMAP, and another program called a net water movement. SARMAP's a specialised program which uses the wind current and the water currents to identify, and leeway, which is how the wind affects items in the water, uses that to be able to predict where people are going to be in a certain amount of time. It sounds complicated, but I'll just show you. Oh dear me. And the net water movement's just a similar program that we get delivered from AMSAR. So this here, I don't know if you can see it very well. This is Tasmania on the left here. This is Bicheno. So we had a situation about 4 years ago where the call come through. The diver gone in the water at Elephant Rocks. We've come back 45 minutes later. They're not there. We've waited another hour. They're not there. We believe they've drifted off somewhere, which is a pretty bad scenario to have. So we called AMSAR, the Maritime Safety Authority, and said, where are they going to be? And they put, they call them cans in the water. So this is a representation of what the computer modelling of where that diver is going to be, would have been. And that helped to dictate our search area with the volunteer vessels that were on the water. And basically, the officer on scene sent boats out, and they started doing parallel line search up and down this, and the helicopter came in and did a barrier search from this end up and down, and they found the diver in the middle, or the two divers in the middle, having a lovely time floating off to New Zealand. So I'm not saying the computer saved their life. People saved their lives, but the computer helped to kind of show us where they'd be. And look, common sense kind of dictated it as well. There were a couple of other little tricks put into play, like throwing a life buoy in the water and seeing which way it drifted in the current. A couple of more older ways of doing it, but I think you get the idea. This search area in the middle, this is one I did, and this is Norfolk Bay over here. This is Frederick Henry Bay. Oh no, I got it wrong. Yep. No, this is Norfolk Bay in here, and that's Frederick Henry Bay out here. So Lime Bay's down here, and you've got Dunalley up here. So this was a search. A father and son went out in their vessels 2021, or went out in a small vessel in 2021, and it was affected by wind kind of from the south or south-southwesterly, so blowing up this way. So by the time we're aware that these people were missing, we launched a search kind of at last light, and we ran a thing that we called a SAR map over the top of this to try and figure out where they're going to be. And that took into account a person in the water wearing a life jacket, possibly an upturned dinghy, and that gave, you can see the colouring around it, you know, blue, green, yellow and red being the most likely place these people are going to be at a specific time. So we launched, we had a helicopter in the air, but we also launched a police vessel Dauntless and a volunteer marine vessel out of Dodgers Ferry came to assist, and this is their track here. So I tasked the police vessel to go to that red dot, and they came out of Hobart onto this map here. This is a separate map, and a bit of a check in there, all right. And they did 1, 2, 3 sweeps of that area and heard the survivor from this. They stopped the police boat at night, listened and heard the survivor blowing their whistle, and were able to get to him. And he'd been in the water for about, I'm going to say 10 hours. Very, very lucky to survive. Unfortunately, his father passed away, and the son was very lucky to survive. So I'm not going to say the computer saved him. The computer put us in a good spot. Good search technique saved him. Like, they could have driven around in police vessel Dauntless all they want all night and inside the cabin and not heard a thing. But the searchers had the presence of mind to stop the boat and actually search instead of just kind of ticking a box by, you know, did a lovely job of drawing lines on the map, but they actually searched and found the person. And you can imagine that line's them going fairly swiftly off to Dunalley to offload the survivor into an ambulance, because he was a bit chilly, 35 degrees, which is just before hypothermic. So given how long he was in the water, it was actually pretty warm. So that's a little bit of technology we use. Just a bit of food for thought. Once you find them, I just spoke about how you rescue people, what you do, because, you know, search plans, not much without a rescue plan. And there's a couple of instances here. Been in the press recently. We've got people in the upside down boats. We had, you know, a mass rescue on the river last week, for example, with 25 yachts, I believe it was. I probably get my figures wrong. You know, these are trained yachtsmen with safety boats out in the water. We launched a response. We probably took it from worst case scenario, whereas it turned out to be fine. But you've got to have that plan. So we had the helicopters there, police boats there. I think most of the rescuing was done by the yacht clubs themselves, which is fantastic, and why they have safety boats on the water. So we're just moving along, getting to the end of it. Obviously, we've done the job, well done. You found the person, or people or boat or whatever you're looking for, or nothing. You know, we often get flare sightings and things like that. Oh, yep, we've had a good look, we didn't find anything. We have a debrief of our crews, try and figure out how to do it better. And then we'll investigate and report if anyone's committed any offences, or if it's a coronial matter. So unfortunately, I'll spend a fair bit of my time providing expert evidence or opinion evidence on how people may have drowned or the circumstances of their death. We've certainly had a few around Tassie. Yeah, that's about it. So, a couple of hints and tips for safe boating. I'm starting to get towards the end of my time. I'm probably telling you stuff you already know, and this is pretty much out of a police media release. You know the area where you're going, seek local knowledge, tell someone where you're going and when you'll return. Pretty important. Know the limitations of your boat and know your own limitations. Certainly as people age, we find that there can be an incident where they hurt themselves, and maybe take that as a warning. You know, maybe it's time to rethink how I boat, or I should go with someone else. For example, if you're in doubt, come back. You know, there's no shame in turning around, and certainly in my world, we have our police vessels turn around. We often go and get bigger ones, but you know, there's no shame in saying, oh, it's a bit rough, we're going to go home. Carry the right safety gear and know how to use it, and don't be afraid to use it either. Having an EPIRB handy, you know, lots of people have got EPIRBs in their boxes up the front of the boat. And in my experience, when boating accidents happen, they happen very quickly. So you'll find people, you know, you'll find their EPIRBs in their box at the front of the boat and the like in the sunk boat. So really, if it's not kind of on you, it's not going to be any good to you. And you'd have all seen, if you're men or women of the sea, you'll have seen the safety grab bags, your classic yellow safety grab bag. That's a pretty handy thing to have kind of close at hand. And don't be afraid to call for help either, because it can actually make our life a bit easier. I move a bit more to the land search and rescue. You know, people will get lost and have ability to kind of ask for help, but will get further lost and further injured while they kind of hold off. So if you think you're in trouble, press that button or call someone or ask for advice. I do it for a living. I don't mind going out and rescuing people. There's a lot of keyboard warriors out there who've got a fair bit to say about it, but take it from someone that does it for a living. I don't mind. It's okay. You know, in the back of my mind, I might be thinking, oh, gee, you know, how'd you get yourself in that situation? But you're never going to get told off. Just look after yourself, because it's a lot easier to rescue a live person than it is to manage someone that passes away, just realistically, and no one wants to see that. Where are we? Know your boat limit, don't exceed it. Carry some spare fuel, basic spare parts, there's common sense there. Wear a life jacket at all times, on boats 6 metres and under. I reckon wear a life jacket on boats, you know, most boats all the time. We've got plenty of boats over 6 metres, and it doesn't take much to put a life jacket on. Keep an eye on the children, put a life jacket on them, yeah, fair enough. And alcohol and boating don't mix. There you go. That's just about it. Fun fact, Tassie ends here, or our state waters end here, which is a stone's throw from Wilson's Prom. So when we patrol out of Beauty Point and the like, we'll often head up that way. There's some amazing islands up through the Furneaux and the Kent group through here. Here's our boat, the Cape Wickham. That's a thing called Skull Rock. That's off Victoria. So we often kind of head up that way. We get a little bit of poaching activity kind of coming through this area as well. Little fun fact for you. And just before we take any questions, anyone know what that is?
It's the Fastland.
Yep. Whereabouts is it?
It's in the Furneaux group. of the east coast of Vansittart, Cape Barren Island.
Jeez, yep, spot on. Yep, okay, yes, that's exactly it.
Wrecked in 1912.
Yeah, oh, fantastic, of course you know.
That was from Buenos Aires.
Yeah, I'm really asking the right group of people. Yeah, congratulations. Yeah, it's in a bit of a state of disrepair at the moment. Unfortunately, the winds have got to it. All right then, where's this cave? It's a sea cave. It's on an island.
Shootin Island.
Ooh, close. Yep, White Rock or Ildefoe, yeah. So that's on the eastern side of Ildefoe. Very beautiful. That's me. So question time till you're ready, but be kind. Remember, be kind. Yep.
Could you speak a little bit more about the yellow grab bag? Out of your experience, what should go into it?
Look, flares, PLB, first aid kit. I think having your mobile phone not in that grab bag, but maybe have another grab bag with your mobile phone in it so it works. V blanket, a safety blanket, maybe even a little mirror for signalling, but really flares and a PLB or an EPIRB are really what's going to save you. And a VHF radio for communication, all pretty good start. But really, your mobile phone, if you can have mobile communications, you're miles ahead of everyone else. I've rescued someone in the middle of the Derwent, in the middle of the night. Their boat had sunk, and they had their phone in a plastic bag and their tread and water. Yeah, I'm over here. Finding them was difficult. It took us, an extra 10 minutes to actually find them, but that's what saved their lives for sure. Yeah, just an old boat. Yeah, it sank. You happy with that?
Thank you.
Yeah, no problems. Yes.
Do rescue people have to contribute anything to the cost of the rescue?
No. Well, I say no. The police service don't charge, so no police rescue is going to charge you. Ambulance can choose to invoice you. Tasmanian residents, no. I believe Ambulance Tasmania has a reciprocal agreement with most of the states in Australia, except for maybe the ACT and South Australia. So pretty much if you're a Tasmanian citizen and you need rescuing, we will rescue you. And there's no bill coming for it. It's a great point of contention for a lot of people, not myself. I don't mind rescuing people when that users should pay for it. But if you've got to pay for it, then you don't ask for it. And if you don't ask for it, then you might drown, which completes this difficult circle that we work in. So, at this stage, you don't pay. Like the VMR may if your boat breaks down and you need 20 litres of fuel and you call a VMR or something like that, they might expect a donate, or it would be nice to make a donation for that fuel or something of the like. Have to be corrected on that, but the police don't charge you. Yep.
What's the age of the vigilant?
1971. So I went to its 40th birthday and its 50th birthday. So it'd now be, what's that, 55 now?
It must have been a previous one that I got rescued in 1963.
Jeez.
63, I rescued at the Derwent and down off Tarugana.
Yeah, they had the Alert is a smaller white vessel, and the Premier, I think, might have been the one prior to that. The Premier has similar lines to the Vigilant, but I think it might have been a sailboat and a bit beamier. Yeah. Well, at least, please they rescued you.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Up the back, yep.
Thanks, Callum. What are the kind of main differences, I guess, or constraints around nighttime SAR operations on water as opposed to daytime from the rescuer's point of view?
Night can be a good thing for us, for starters. Like if you've got first example would be strobe light. Commercial life jackets should have a strobe light on them. Recreational ones don't. So if you're in the water in a commercial life jacket, little light will go off, and any kind of forward-looking infrared or technology like that will pick it up pretty quick. Constraint-wise for us, we can't use jet skis. Surf life-saving jet skis don't get used. The IRBs aren't really, or the smaller rubber vessels aren't really practical of a night time for searching. The VMRs and Surf Life-Saving Tasmania have vessels with radar fitted, which is handy. And our larger police vessels have forward-looking infrared on them, radar and the like. So there are some constraints. Depends what you're looking for, really. Looking for a boat at night, we'd use the radar. Looking for a boat during the day, so probably a similar kind of thing. What really brings us a bit unstuck, it's not the helicopter rescue, for example. Daytime searching, things stick out really well. Nighttime searching, you use different kind of technology and things will stick out well. It's at dusk kind of time. And I've had survivors tell me how they've been in the water and right on dusk, had the machine flying over to the top of them a few times, which would be heartbreaking to see. That's come to rescue me and didn't quite find them, but it did find them in the end, so it worked out all right. I hope that I didn't skirt around it too much there. No. Yep.
Do you have access to the VTS cameras that are around the building?
Yeah, we have. We're in communications with the Port Authority about their cameras, and we can head down there and speak to them about it. But at our office, we don't have direct access to their cameras. Our radio room, I think might. We often get, and sorry to touch on it if it's a bit of a sensitive matter, we often get a lot of work off the Tasman Bridge for whatever reason that is. And yeah, we do a fair bit of work with the cameras there.
There's also a recent camera, I believe, on North Bruni, north of Roberts Point, which is infrared.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's up and running or not.
One's an infrared one, which I imagine would be quite handy at night.
Yeah, there's a fair bit of activity goes on at North Bruni, especially in the Marine Reserve of the night time as well. A little bit of skullduggery getting through there. Yeah, I'm not sure about the infrared one. I know we have worked with Maritime Radio in the past and assisted putting a camera up at the Narrows, which is very handy. And if you haven't seen it, get on the Denali Narrows webcams. Really worth a look because it's the live feed of what you might have to get through. But yeah, North Bruni, I can't help you with that one. Yes, ma'am?
Could you repeat that about the Tasman Bridge? Because I came nose to nose with the police car one day.
Yep.
And they were obviously looking for someone who jumped over it. So how did they know about that?
Well, I'll just pull you back. We get a lot of calls about people on the bridge acting suspiciously. And to be, I'm going to pull a number out of the air, but most of them are just, someone was walking over the bridge and looking over the side. But we do have people jump off the bridge. It's a sad reality. It's not really reported in the media. It's not once a week. It's hard to say how many. Sometimes it can be a couple of times a week. Sometimes it can go months without it happening. There are cameras on the bridge which can watch people, and we can reverse them and actually, monitor what's gone on there as well. And once they're in the water, we use people with binoculars and on the shore and the port's cameras to kind of track people in the water as well and try and get to them as soon as we can. So it's a sad reality, and they're trying to mitigate that and what the government's doing about it. They may or may not be building a barrier there. The unfortunate reality of mental health is, if someone's that committed, they may go somewhere else and do the same thing. So, yeah. Sorry to bring that up. Yes?
In discussion with friends today, we were talking about the conditions of Sunday ago when the front came through.
Yeah, yep.
And it was pointed out that these days, a lot of the sailors, the dinghy sailors, the fashionable gear is black.
Yeah, probably doesn't help, does it?
Which makes them very hard to see under those circumstances. In the old days, we always wore yellow or
Yeah.
when we were sailing.
Absolutely. And look, and I think in the old days, boats might have been a bit heavier as well. Probably not a great deal heavier. I can't talk too much about that one because I wasn't there and I didn't control it. But, you know, you get a report of 50 people in the water and boats getting thrown everywhere, which they were. You really, all it takes is someone to be hit in the head with a mast or something, and then it turns into something terrible that's happened. So I think it was well managed by the people who were there, the rescue boats on the water. And I don't know, it's obvious, I can see a heap of Sydney to Hobart t-shirts getting around here. So I think it was done well. We also got the firefighter helicopter in the air as well pretty quick, which has got forward-looking infrared on it, because we were just getting ours strapped to our other helicopter. So they came on board and obviously everyone got accounted for. But you're right, yeah. I think being seen is pretty important. And the yokes, when you put a yoke on and it actually blows up, it's yellow. It's not black, but you're right, yeah, all the sailing gear is a fashionable dark colour, which isn't particularly helpful.
But second question, with the new electronic flares, have you any idea what the uptake of those has been amongst the boaters?
I don't know. I know that they do. They have been. There is uptake on them. Personally, I don't think they're as good as a handheld flare, but they'll last longer. And part of the conditions of having an electronic flare is you have to have a working VHF radio and a PLB with you. So, you know, what you might lose with the electronic flare, you're going to gain having a VHF radio and an EPIRB. You've got to have it. So, yeah, I won't be drawn too much on that one. And I don't know what the uptake is, sorry. Anyone else? Done?
Do you have any trouble communicating with boats with rigging, so yachts, sailing yachts where they've got into trouble and someone's got to be taken off with a helicopter in rough water? You've got all the rigging. In the Sydney to Hobart, when they had a bit of a disaster, there all Sydney Hobart people get trained, they'll get into life rafts and get rescued from there and stuff. The average Joe Blow that's out on the river is probably not going to think, I need to get into the dig, or I'm going to have to jump in the water for the helicopter. Yeah. So you've got to be able to communicate if they've got no communication, if the communications are out. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a helicopter crewman, but I have been involved in some of the waterborne training they do. They certainly, if you're in a yacht and you're untrained and a helicopter's overhead, they will try and contact you on VHF 16 or 6, the emergency channel. If they can't get any communications with the vessel, they'll lower a bag from the helicopter to a point on the yacht, and that bag will have instructions on it. And that, paraphrasing, but it'd say, here's a bag, tie this to the stern of your boat. We're going to deploy a raft. So they'll do that. And so if someone's on there to get that message, they'll get an idea of what to do. And then they'll tie the line to the boat, helicopter will back off, chuck a raft in the water. That'll deploy, pull the raft in. There might be another note on the raft. It's like a find your own adventure. Jump in the raft, we'll come and get you from that. And so the raft floats away from the yacht. The helicopter's safe from getting entangled in the rigging. Crew person can come down, grab them out. The rescue's affected that way. But I mean, the best way to get someone off a yacht's going to be with a waterborne asset as opposed to a helicopter. But that depends on where it is, I suppose. You can't. Helicopter flies quicker than a boat does. Does that answer your question? Fantastic. Anyone else? No?